Hello and welcome to another video. Today we're going to be taking a bit more of a look into Git and maybe taking a look at a few commands in the Git bash workspace that we can actually use to create our local Git repositories and such. So for now, if I do a pwd to take a look at what directory I'm currently in, it will tell me I'm in my home directory, which is C users Tom. Yours will be different. It'll be whatever your username is inside C users by the name. Now, inside my actual repositories, that's not repository, inside my directory, I would like to now make a new directory. So I'm going to make a new directory called projects. Yeah. And to do that, we have to use mkdir space and the name of the directory or folder that we wish to create. So if we press enter, we now make a new directory. If we want to change into that directory, we can use what we call cd or change directory. And then we do cd space and the name of the directory relative to where we are. Now we're currently in the directory where we made it. So the relative directory is actually just the name of the directory. Projects. So now with cd space projects, we press enter and notice how now we have, instead of just a tilde, we have a tilde slash projects. And if we run pwd and press enter, we're in C users, your name slash projects. So now that we actually have that there, we have somewhere to put our projects in. So whenever we want to make a project, we can say make directory, mkdir, space, name of project. I'm going to say my first GitHub repository. Yeah. So I made a directory called my dash first dash GitHub dash repository and pressed enter. This has made a directory, and to list the directories inside the current directory is using ls for list. So if you'll notice, I now have access to this folder that's in this current directory called my first GitHub repository. Now I'm going to change directory to that actual directory. So my dash first dash GitHub dash repository and press enter. And if you'll notice, it now says tilde slash project slash my first GitHub repository. If I type in pwd, I can check what directory I'm in, and it reflects the correct directory to what I've changed to. Now that we're in this directory, we're going to use git command, and we use git init to initialize a new Git repository. And we'll press enter. So we've now initialized a new empty Git repository. If we do ls, it seems like we don't have anything new in this folder, but we actually do. Any folder that has a dot before the actual name of it will seem invisible inside your terminal. So to view things like that, we do a ls-al. We now have all these invisible special directories. The dot and dot dot are just specialized directories which allow you to traverse to the current directory and the previous directory that you're in, just as a relative path. This .git directory was made when we typed git init. We can actually cd into .git and press enter. Now notice it says it's a git dir, an exclamation point, because you shouldn't really be in here changing things. But we're going to do a quick ls. It says a head, config, description, hooks and stuff. I don't want you to start messing with that. You do not directly ever mess with this folder. This is dealt with by Git itself. So this is just the folder that stores all the information, all the things about your Git repository. So to change directory back to where we were, we can go what we call up one directory by using cd space dot dot, one of those special directories. And when we press enter, we're back up to the previous directory, or what we call the parent directory. So now, notice how it's got this main. That is telling us which what we call branch we are on of our GitHub or Git repository. There's a few things we can do now. We can say Git status, get the current status. You're on branch main. There's no commits yet, and there's nothing to commit. It says create or copy files and use git add to track. Now, tracking means that you're telling Git that it can commit things or store these things or the current version of these things. So what we're going to do is we're going to use another command called touch. Touch creates empty files. So at this point, we're going to say touch readme.md. Okay. And we press enter. Now that's created a new empty file called readme.md. And if I do ls, we can list the directory and it shows us this file. If we want more information about readme, we can do a couple of things. We can do a ls space -al. This will show us all the things, but also it tells you like a few things. It's like who owns it. In this case, Tom, which would be your username instead. How big it is in general or whatever. And there's a few different aspects here that we don't really need to get super deep into. But mainly we need to know, okay, we have this thing that we can use. So now if we wish to do things with it, we need some sort of editor. We could do Notepad and just run Notepad, for instance, like we have here. So to do Notepad and use the README, we can do Notepad space readme.md and press enter, and then it will be editing the readme.md file in Notepad. Now at this point we have Windows line endings. When it pushes it, it will convert it to Unix line endings and so forth. So you will have some minor differences there, but that's fine. At this point we can make a heading in our readme.md by using the octathorpe, nomenclature, or hash sign, like so. Sometimes you may know this also as pound sign. If I say, now say my first GitHub repository, that will be my heading. Then your next one will be a paragraph of this is a test repository. And what I'll do is I'll capitalize the T in this. Now I'll go File and Save and close it. Now, if I do an ls again, it's there. If I do an ls-al, it's there. But if you'll notice, now it says 57, which is the size of the text that's in there. This is the content of the file size. So now we've wrote some data to this readme.md. So what we can do next is we can list the content of the MD, and we can use a file called cat, which is a tool to read data from a file and concatenate it onto the screen. So let's do cat readme.md, and it displays exactly what we have in the file, which is awesome. But if we do a git status now, notice how it says no commits yet, on branch main, untracked files. So it's saying I'm not tracking this. So git is not tracking these. So what you can do is you can use the git add command and the file name to add that to the tracked files that are tracked by git. So at this point we can say git add readme.md and press enter. This told git to start tracking that file for changes, in which case we can commit its current state to git. So we can do that with a git commit, but first we'll say git status, take a look at the status, and now it says there are changes to be committed. If you don't want these changes available, you can use git rm cached and the file name to unstage it, because these are what we call staging things. So we use add to stage commits. Now that we've done that though, we can do git commit and use what we call -m for message and some speech marks. Inside those speech marks, we want a little message explaining what it is that we did. You know, what did we change in this repository? What have we done? we have created a readme.md file. That's exactly what we've just done. And be descriptive as to what you did in these commit messages. Now, if I press enter, notice how it says main root commit created a readme file. One file changes with 2 insertions and 2 lines got inserted. It says we created a node mode. Create mode was whatever that mode is, and then readme.md. If I do a ls to list files, nothing's changed here. It's all in that .git folder. If I do a git status, nothing to commit, working tree clean. So everything's done. This is up to date. It's completely stored as that thing. So let's review. We've learned a couple of commands like ls, make dir, mkdir, change dir, cd, touch, create new empty file, and a couple of git commands like git status, git add, git commit. This will conclude it for now, and we'll continue on in another video and kind of add more to your knowledge base. Thanks a lot for watching. Have a great day.